weeks ago, during a speech to service members at a Virginia military base, President Joe Biden made an ominous remark regarding the country's relationship with China. Let's play that, and I'll bring in my next guest to talk more about it.
I've spent more time with President Xi of China than any world leader has, for 24 hours of private meetings with him. Just an interpreter, 17,000 miles traveling with him in China and here. He firmly believes that China, before the year 3035, is going to own America, because autocracies can make quick decisions.
Joining me now is National Security Deputy Editor for Breitbart News, John Hayward. Welcome back to the program. How scary is this speech? And it doesn't seem like we're really doing enough about this.
Well, yeah, it is an alarming possibility. We do know some things about China. We know their economy and military capability is growing very rapidly. We know they think they're going to surpass us as the dominant economy, political force, and military force in the world within 20 years. Their military thinks they will surpass ours in capability within the next 20 years. Right now, we have an enormous qualitative edge over them. We have aircraft carriers, stealth bombers, a lot of technology that they don't have, a lot of experience they don't have. The Chinese think all of those advantages will be erased within the next 20 years. And they're working hard on signaling that they also intend to remain competitive with nuclear weapons. They're not going to let us have an overwhelming nuclear advantage. Right now, China is pushing really hard to make themselves look like the aggrieved party, like we're picking on them, like we've been treating them unfairly with human rights allegations, with coronavirus allegations. So they're trying to portray themselves as a poor, peace-loving, innocent country surrounded by hostile American and European forces, and everything they're doing right now is just to defend themselves. But they have very aggressive plans, and they are gearing up to have the capability to execute those plans.
Yes, they currently have the largest naval fleet in the entire world. And when you talk about them gearing up military, they have an advantage over the U.S. when it comes to labor rates and costs in general. So it's much more financially advantageous for them to be able to gear up a massive military, isn't it?
Yes, they have advantages in labor. They also have advantages in information technology and research. They can work on things that we really can't. We have ethical considerations. We have the sovereign rights of American citizens to be respected. Our government would have trouble mounting a gigantic citywide surveillance plan as part of a military training program, but the Chinese can do that without a second thought. There's nothing stopping them from military, nuclear, information technology, biological, chemical research, whatever they think they need to do, and they believe they can do these large projects much quicker than we can. And I think they have reasons to believe that. I don't think it's unreasonable for them to think so. How hard would it be for our government to do any large project in the current state it's in? Our government talks about infrastructure spending, but the idea of this government, this administration, building giant bridges or power plants or dams is absolutely laughable. It would take them decades just to clear the paperwork to do a major construction project. Not so with China. If the Chinese government decides it needs a dam somewhere, they'll erase every village in their path and tell all those people to go live somewhere else. They'll hand them a check for $1,000. They did this a couple of years ago. They wiped out an entire village. They handed them small stipends, and they said, go find somewhere else to live because we're building a dam here. I mean, they can do things like that, and they believe it gives them an unbeatable edge over our government in the years to come.
Oh, we watched them in the middle of COVID build hospitals in 10 days. So we obviously know that they can do this. We've seen, the American people have seen that China has the capability to build things overnight. Now, one of the things that they're working on is an AI force. American officials have said, well, an actual human force is much more impressive than an AI military force. But they're really learning a lot about AI. Could this be a significant danger to the United States?
Oh, yes. Artificial intelligence is not to be trifled with. It doesn't necessarily mean talking robots. You know, the science fiction ideas could be something that never happens or a ways off. But long before those things happen, artificial intelligence systems run with minimal human interaction. And in a military setting, that means a human commander can unleash a swarm of AI drones and computers, tactical analysis, automated weapons. All of those things can act and react faster than human beings possibly can. The future future of warfare is going to be this total war concept, future war, in which you'll have automated weapon systems, information technology warfare, hacking, communications disruption. All of that is going to be part of the battlefield environment of the future. And one of the places China has, unfortunately, a significant advantage is that they're harvesting gigantic amounts of data from their own people and from us through applications like TikTok, other Chinese applications that keep getting busted for spying and harvesting information on their users. All of that data is being fed into these AI platforms, and in a way it's feeding them. They can nourish their AI research with more quality data food than our researchers can do, because we can't do that. We don't spy on people that way. We don't harvest information that way. They do. And that's going to give them, they believe, an enormous advantage in this next quantum level of warfare.
And we had a president who was saying we have to get rid of TikTok. TikTok cannot be a Chinese company in the U.S. and harvesting our people's data. And everybody laughed at him and said, this is crazy. He's afraid of this child's app. It's insane. But it truly is not insane. One more thing really quick. I know we have a lot of our U.S. manufacturing components of our military equipment come in from China. How dangerous is that?
That is a major weakness that's been revealed by the coronavirus, particularly. Our supply chains run through China. Our chains for chips, for high technology, rare earth minerals, which are needed to create a lot of advanced processor chips, our medical supply chains, military hardware, everything runs through China now. This has developed over the last 20 to 30 years. They've become indispensable suppliers of labor and a lot of products, and they are very eager to use that leverage in a variety of ways. Obviously, if we went to war with them or something, they'd stop selling us everything we need for our military. That's the worst case. But long before it comes to that, they will threaten to cut off access to their markets and access to supplies in order to push their political agenda. They do it all the time. They do it constantly. They just did it to companies that were objecting to forced labor from the Uyghur Muslims. The Chinese turned to those companies and said, hey, if you want to keep doing business in China, you better shut up. Stop complaining about forced labor. We don't like that. We'll boycott you. We'll destroy you. And a lot of those companies complied. So they've developed immense leverage over countries around the world, companies around the world, and they do not hesitate to use it to get what they want.
Power has shifted, and the current people in Washington are not willing to have this conversation. We're glad you were here. National Security Deputy Editor for Breitbart News, John Hayward, thank you so much for coming on today.
Thank you very much for having me.